My name is William Baloy from GCIS, Government Communication and Information Systems. Today we are going to have a very important post-cabinet briefing, not to say the others were not important. The importance of this one is that since 1994, when we became a democracy, South Africa has hosted events of an international nature that put us amongst the community of nations as a hosting country. 1994 was a watershed moment internationally. Just to mention a few, 1995, we won the Rugby World Cup for the very first time as a country. As if that was not enough, 1996, we won the African Cup of Nations, and from there on, we have been on a roll. But I think the masterpiece was when we successfully and safely hosted the 2010 World Cup, and it went smoothly. From there on, we have been hosting a series of international events without any hiccups. So that has put us as a country on a pedestal of community of nations in hosting events of that nature. As the minister will be giving us the post-cabinet briefing, the country is on high spirits. We are demonstrating the patriotism that we have done previously and continue to do. Minister will take us through the post-cabinet statement. I won't get into that. I thought I need to just touch on some of those aspects that has made us a country that is counted among the countries on the international space. Minister, with those words, let me invite you to give us a post-cabinet statement and the deliberations that informed it. Minister in the Presidency, Minister Ntshavheni. Thank you, Minister.
Today there's no space for my tablet. Let me just increase the font. I need space to put my tablet. Unless you think I have capacity to recall. If you can put it this side. Are we able to move this one a bit up? Now we have hot mics on us.
This one has to be on.
Yes. No, we're putting it off just so that we can create space for I'll put it on.
Okay.
I'm just creating space for my tablet.
For the tablet,
yeah, otherwise I will not have... I won't be able to read.
I'll press it for her.
I'll press, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. Should be able to... Who can feel the temperature of the country, that the excitement is roaring like I can do? You guys are so somber, as if We are going to host the nations of the world, guys. But you are very somber. I think we need to do something about this center so that there can be some vavavu. You know, when you enter the Pretoria Media Briefing Center, the temperature is very live. Guys, let's make it a bit warmer. This is power talks. The legislators are here. Good morning, and our apologies for the slight delays. The construction around the precinct are making the movements difficult for everyone. This is the post-cabinet briefing on the meeting of cabinet of Wednesday, the 12th of November 2025. Let's start on the issues from the environment. On the economy, the 2025 medium-term budget policy statement, which reinforces the commitment to economic growth. Cabinet welcomed the 2025 medium-term budget policy statement as part of the continuing government efforts to drive economic growth, create jobs, and address the cost of living. The MTBPS announced a shift from inflation target range to a specific inflation target of 3%. The benefits of a low inflation target at personal income level include prevention of cost of living spirals, promotion of price stability, and thus protecting purchasing power, supporting equitable income distribution, and protection of savings. At a macroeconomic level, the aim is to support gross capital formation and enhance currency stability, which are important for investor confidence and economic growth. The National Treasury and Reserve Bank technical teams that made the recommendation for this change in monetary policy position considered the drawbacks of this shift, but on balance, Cabinet was advised and agreed that this is the best approach for the country at the current moment. The MTBPS also reaffirmed government's commitment to improve provisions of critical services like health, education, and protection of the poor through social grants, whilst also driving investment in public infrastructure such as energy, water, and transport. The quarterly labor force survey reports 248,000 more jobs created in quarter 3 of 2025. Cabinet welcomed the Statistics South Africa's quarterly labor force survey that reported 248,000 more jobs created in quarter 3 of 2025, thus increasing the number of employed persons to 17.1 million and the official unemployment rate declining by 1.3 percentage points to 31.9% in the quarter. With more jobs recorded in the construction, community and social services and trade sectors, Cabinet is pleased with job creation momentum in key areas of the economy. More jobs in the construction sectors are concomitant with government's prioritization of infrastructure development, which is matched by a 1 trillion rand infrastructure budget as announced during the 2025 budget and reaffirmed in the 2025 MTBPS. 7.6 million tourist arrivals between January and September 2025. Cabinet welcomed the 7.634261 million international tourist arrivals recorded between January and September 2025, marking an impressive increase of 1.10822 visitors compared with the same period in 2024, and confirming South Africa as a premium global tourism destination. Key strong growth markets that contributed to this growth are Middle East with 58% increase, Europe grew by 29%, key markets in Africa grew by 28%, North America by 22%, and Asia with 11%. Despite all issues, the North American visitors are still coming to South Africa, if you get my drift. South Africa's BioVac produces a cholera vaccine, a first in history vaccine to be produced in South Africa. Cabinet congratulated BioVac and the Departments of Health, Science, Technology and Innovation for the launch of the first vaccine that was produced in South Africa in the history of the country. BioVac's ability to produce the cholera vaccine in South Africa is a demonstration of South Africa's advancement in pharmaceutical science and technology, and marking a graduation from vaccine packaging, like in the instance of BNG vaccine to full vaccine manufacturing capability. And there's confusion in the media that we had previously produced a vaccine. No, we had packaged vaccines previously. This is the first time South Africa produces its own vaccine. The partnership of BioVac with the Human Science Research Council and the CSIR demonstrates the mobilization of government's capabilities to address the country's challenges and demonstrates the South Africa's prowess in the scientific space. Cabinet is confident of BioVac with its partners for future contribution to the eradication of diseases in South Africa and in Africa through the manufacturing of vaccines focused on our health challenges as the continent. With this ability, the diseases that plague Africa, such as malaria and other plagues, are in sight for us to have vaccines developed here. We are looking forward to more advances from BioVac. On G20, 9 days countdown to the G20 summit, with 9 days to go to the G20 Leaders Summit on the 22nd to the 23rd of November 2025 in Nasrec, Johannesburg. Cabinet is confident of South Africa's readiness to host a successful first G20 summit in the African continent. Government is also ready to host in 5 days' time the G20 Social Summit from the 18th to the 20th of November 2025 at the Beachwood Hotel at the OR Tambo Conference Center in Ekurhuleni. Since taking over the reins as the president of the G20, South Africa has hosted 130 preparatory meetings which were incident-free and used the opportunity to showcase the diversity of our provinces and tourism destinations. All provinces hosted a G20 preparatory event of one form or the other. Comprehensive safety and security plans for the Leaders Summit and the Social Summit are being managed and coordinated by the relevant security structures. The President will undertake a walkabout at the Nasrec precinct tomorrow, Friday, 14th November 2025. Watch out for the announcement of the other details. A G20 State of Readiness media briefing will be held on Sunday, 16 November 2025, to take citizens and the global stakeholders into the country's confidence, including milestones achieved since South Africa's G20 presidency in November 2024. We are working whether there will be a need for a family meeting for the president to address the nation. If such a need is determined, the president will address a family meeting around the G20 and our preparedness. On energy, Cabinet welcomed Eskom's announcements that the National Nuclear Regulator has approved a 20-year license extension for Quebec Unit 2, enabling its operations to extend until November 2045. This is a significant milestone that strengthens South Africa's long-term energy security and reflects Eskom's commitment to world-class nuclear safety standards. Cabinet further welcomed the NERSA's announcement of the registration of 181 new generation facilities during the second quarter of the 2025-26 financial year. These facilities represent a combined capacity of 1,401 megawatts and an estimated investment value of 30.78 billion rands. On international stage, South Africa was appointed by SADC to chair SADC, to be the interim chairperson of SADC at the extraordinary summit of SADC heads of state. Cabinet was updated about the outcome of the extraordinary summit of the SADC heads of state and government held on the 7th of November 2025, which has appointed South Africa as the interim chairperson of SADC for the period up to August 2026. We'll also take our space from August 2026 as the chairperson of SADC. South Africa's appointment to chair SADC is a result of Madagascar withdrawing from the chairpersonship of SADC for this period to focus on addressing the situation that is prevailing in Madagascar. South Africa will continue on the theme of Madagascar, which the agenda was adopted by SADC, which was industrialization, agricultural transformation, and energy transition for a resilient SADC. The chairship of SADC demonstrates the region's confidence in South Africa and our ability to stand in when the region needs us the most. SADC meeting also congratulated the newly elected presidents of Malawi, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, President of Republic of Malawi, and His Excellency Dr. Patrick Emine, President of the Republic of Seychelles, and Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, after they were elected in their national elections. SADC also extended its condolences to the people of Madagascar on the losses of life and the people of Tanzania on the losses of life that happened in Madagascar when there were a demonstration by citizens to demand certain reforms in their own country, and in Tanzania during the election period. On extradition, Cabinet was briefed on the progress regarding South Africa's extradition request to Botswana and Malawi concerning the return of individuals facing serious criminal charges in the country. Cabinet reaffirmed the principle that all persons accused of crimes must face justice in South Africa and be held fully accountable and in accordance with the law. For Botswana, is people who are in South Africa who must be extradited to Botswana and the conditions for the extradition in our country. And in Malawi is the extradition of Mr. Bushiri, and you know of the court decision in Malawi and the decision of the Department of Justice and the Minister of Justice to appeal such a decision. On cabinet decisions, amendment of the state legal representation policy. Cabinet approved the amendment of the state legal representation policy. The objective was to amend a paragraph to allow the policy to provide for the legal representation of state employees, inclusive of former state employees, members of the judicial, and members of the executive following the exercise of and performance of their functions in such capacity. South Africa initiates its intention to bid for the 2036 and 2040 Olympic Games. Cabinet approved South Africa to enter continuous dialogue with the International Olympic Committee as part of its intention to bid for the 2036 and 2040 Olympic Games. The continuous dialogue with the IOC is a preliminary and exploratory engagement that is critical to advance South Africa's intention to bid for the hosting rights of the Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2036 or 2040. Cabinet is confident of South Africa's readiness and ability to host the Olympic Games given South Africa's available infrastructure and that the investments we need to make in infrastructure improvements are not significant, but the state of readiness, even if we are offered the games tomorrow, Cabinet is confident that we should be able to host them with our facilities. The Field Child Labour Programme of Action for South Africa 2025-2029, Cabinet approved the 5th Child Labour Programme of Action, which serves as the country's national framework for combating child labour. And CLPA is a government-led initiative aimed at strengthening legislation and enforcement, raising public awareness, and coordinating efforts with civil society to support children affected by child labour. Building on the lessons from previous phases, the 5th phase aims to enhance integrated and targeted interventions with an emphasis on early identification and comprehensive support for at-risk and affected children. The lifting of the state of care and maintenance of the pebble bed modular reactor. Cabinet approved the lifting of the state of care and maintenance of the pebble bed modular reactor to allow South Africa to further develop the pebble bed modular reactor technology. This decision will enhance South Africa's ambition to participate in the nuclear fuel cycle and position the country to play a critical role in the development of small modular reactor technology. On bills, Traditional Khoisan Leadership Bill, Cabinet approved the submission of the Traditional Khoisan Leadership Bill 2025 to Parliament. The bill responds to the Constitutional Court ruling that declared the Traditional and Consign Leadership Act of 2019 invalid due to insufficient public participation during its passage in Parliament. In 2024, Cabinet approved the publication of a revised Traditional and Consign Leadership Bill 2024 for public comment, whereby 134 written comments were received, and these submissions were analyzed and the bill was amended accordingly. The revised bill will give Parliament an opportunity to comply with the order of the Constitutional Court, and it will replace, when approved, the Traditional Leadership and Governance Framework Act of 2003. On appointments, all appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. Cabinet approved the appointment of Mr. Maswahle Joseph Dipufa as the Director General at the Department of Traditional Affairs, and this is the renewal of the contract. Appointment of members of the South African, maybe let me skip this, I'll come back to it. Appointment of the two non-executive directors on the land bank, Mr. Basil Mpumelelo Maseko and Ms. Mpumelele Balungile Tlungwane, and the reappointment of two non-executive directors on the board of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, Mr. Kenneth Willie Brown and Ms. Dineo Modirwadi Lerotle. Updates to Cabinet. Cabinet received an update on the work of the Junior Mining Exploration Fund, JMEF, including progress on the first disbursements and plans to transform the Junior Mining Exploration Fund into an independent fund. Cabinet approved the Junior Mining Exploration Fund in 2022 to support eligible junior mining businesses in conducting exploration activities. At the time, the fund had set a target of attracting at least 5% of global exploration expenditure to South Africa as part of South Africa's enhancing its exploration abilities given the abundance of minerals. Since its inception, the fund has established governance structures and launched Window 1 that targeted key minerals such as copper, nickel, graphite, lithium, and rare earth elements. During this window, 119 applications translating to 3.7 billion in funding requests were received. Of these, 46 applications were deemed eligible, reflecting a strong investor interest and significant potential for investment in exploration in South Africa. Progress on the implementation of the alternative funding pathway for modernization and expansion of the national grid. Cabinet received a briefing on the progress in the implementation of the alternative funding pathways for modernization and expansion of the national transmission grid, including the establishment of the Independent Transmission Project Office within the Independent Power Producers Office. In December 2023, Cabinet endorsed the ITP program to allow private sector participants to allow private sector participation in the development, financing, construction, and operation of new transmission infrastructure under a transparent regulatory framework. Significant progress has been made in the operationalizing alternative funding models for transmission expansion, particularly with regards to creating an enabling environment for independent transmission project. Phase 1 of the ITP program is expected to unlock 1,164 kilometers of new transmission lines and additional substation capacity. Government engagement has engaged with investors and has confirmed strong market appetite to participate in South Africa's transmission expansion and modernization program. The gazetting of the draft electricity transmission regulations and the ministerial determination forms part of this progress. You'll recall the Minister of Energy gazetted those. And you'll recall the expansion of the transmission line is part of the critical deliverables on our electricity and energy reforms as they were published through the NECOM, and the progress that is being made to stabilize energy security in the country. Report on the outcomes of the Africa Diamond Producers Association bilateral and the engagements thereof. Cabinet received a report on the outcomes of the bilateral engagement aimed at encouraging Botswana to become a member of the African Diamond Producers Association. Botswana is the largest producer of diamonds in the world. It's a significant player who, in terms of the views of the African Diamond Producers Association, needs to form part of that membership. Botswana, in terms of the report, has in principle agreed to join the ADEP and requested that South Africa facilitates with the ADEP Secretariat that it be invited to participate as an observer at an initial stage. Distribution agency agreements, partnerships with ESCOM. Cabinet was briefed on the distribution agency agreements and supported its implementation. The distribution agency agreements is a contract where ESCOM acts as an agent to take over a municipality's electricity distribution functions, including maintenance, repairs, and revenue collection. This is intended to address issues like municipal debt and poor service delivery, aiming to improve reliability and help municipalities regain control of their electricity departments. These agreements are critical instruments to restore financial discipline, enhance revenue recovery, and stabilize electricity service delivery across municipalities. The intervention implemented to date are intended to advance the Department of Energy and Electricity's mandate to ensure reliable, transparent, and sustainable electricity distribution industry. You will recall that major challenges are applying in municipalities where even load reduction is being undertaken by municipalities because they do not have sufficient power. So these distribution agreements allow the ESCOM to step in and stabilize the municipalities, including on revenue collection. It's part of those local government reforms that we're implementing as part of Phase 2 Operation Vulindlela reforms. And these are led by the Department of Electricity and Energy. Upcoming events, the Disability Rights Awareness Month. The country observes Disability Rights Awareness Month from the 3rd of November to the 3rd of December under the theme Creating Strategic Multi-Sectoral Partnerships for a Disability-Inclusive Society. The month will culminate in the International and National Day of and for Persons with Disabilities on the 3rd of December, and Cabinet joins all South Africans in promoting awareness, inclusion, and equality for people with disabilities. Government continues to advance the implementation of the White Paper on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, reaffirming its commitment to building an inclusive society where all persons with disabilities enjoy equal rights, dignity, and meaningful participation. And we all call on parents who have children with disabilities not to hide them, but to make them participate, go to school, and be supported. Government has created an environment for persons, including young people, children with disabilities, to thrive and become competitive. Disability does not mean inability. Cabinet calls a litsima for South Africans to unite to end violence against women and children as we approach the 16 days of activism for non-violence against women and children campaign that will take place from the 25th of November to the 10th of December 2025 under the theme Litsima, Men, Women, Boys and Children Working Together to End Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Cabinet is deeply concerned that despite concerted efforts by government, civil society, business and communities to tackle the scourge of GBVF, South Africa continues to grapple with the alarming rates of GBVF. In response to high levels of GBVF, government in April this year launched the 90-day gender-based violence femicide acceleration program to ensure rapid and coordinated action against GBVF and fast-track the implementation of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF. The 90-day program, which was led by the JPS cluster, implemented agent and impactful interventions which were targeted to ensure that offenders of GBVF are arrested, tried, and they are denied bail. But we call upon South Africans to work with government as society, as family, as persons, to prevent and stop the scourge of gender-based violence. Gender-based violence happens in our homes, happens in our communities. So we are the first responders and have the power and ability to stop it. Government comes in to protect and to respond to the actions of those who have already perpetrated GBVF. But we always know prevention is better than cure. So this should be a societal call. We must be united to address GBVF against our children and our women. The National Construction Summit. The National Construction Summit will be held from the 13th to the 14th of November 2025 in KwaZulu-Natal. And this will be hosted by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in partnership with the Construction Industry Development Board, CIDB. The summit will focus on practical solutions on speeding up construction projects, including strengthening site security, aligning procurement systems, improving reporting mechanisms, and reinforcing collaboration between the public and private sectors. This summit is important as government seeks to accelerate the expenditure in public infrastructure, but as key to economic development and job creation. On messages of condolences, Cabinet expressed its condolences to the friends and family of Ms. Ntombazana Botha, the struggle stalwart and former Deputy Minister of Arts and Culture. Cabinet wishes to extend its congratulations and well wishes to Ms. Joyce Pitso, Mr. Mosotho Moepa, and Judge Daya Pillay for their appointment to the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa by the President of the Republic, and congratulate Mr. Mosotho Moepa for his reappointment as the chairperson of the Commission. Cabinet wishes to extend its congratulations to Ms. Vutsietsi Khapula on being crowned Miss South Africa Disability. The under-17 national soccer team, popularly known as Amajimbos, who became the first South African team in the age group to progress past the group stage of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. What do we say? No DNA, just RSA. The Springboks for winning their second game in the Quilter Nations Series by defeating France 32-17 with one man down, and also marking my captain Siya Kolisi's 100th Springbok outing. And what do we say? No DNA, just RSA. We wish also to congratulate the SABC international correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Peace and videographer Aaron Berbick for being named the gold winners of the Ricardo Ortega Memorial Prize by the United Nations Correspondents Association. We also wish to congratulate Mr. Dan Maruka, the ESCOM's Group Chief Executive, for being named Sunday Times Business Leader of the Year 2025 at the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies Award. It's very important for Black excellence, but also for the benefit he has served the country, in support of the chairman of the board and the Minister of Energy for making sure that we don't have load shedding in the country and guaranteeing energy security, him and his team. So on behalf of Cabinet, we wish Mr. Dan Marukane very well. Cabinet also wished to extend its congratulations to Nigeria for exiting the FATF grey listing as a recognition of the progress the African continent is making in bolstering global financial reliability, dealing with terror financing, but also as part of boosting investor confidence. The exiting of Nigeria, which follows on the footsteps of South Africa exiting the grey listing, is important as South Africa and Nigeria are strategic partners in the development of the African continent. We thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the post-cabinet statement. Thank you very much also, Minister, for emphasizing the call on GBV. That is a societal issue that all of us have to be involved in that one. Thank you very much. I hope the message will continue to echo as government has also, as per your pronouncement, Minister, being involved in measures that deal with it. Joining the Minister is the Acting Director General, Mr. Sandile Nene of GCIS, and we have also our sign language interpreter, Leandra, and thank you very much. Let me first invite questions in the Khumbudzo Center, and then maybe Leighton will lead us on questions in the virtual part. Let me note your hand, and then let me, in that order, recognize them.
Thank you, Minister. Legan Magoban from Sunday Times. Just 3 questions, if I can be indulged. The first one would be on PDMR and the lifting of maintenance. It looks like a huge leveraging of the potential for nuclear power in South Africa. But one of the things people are complaining about is that when the government seems to look for technical expertise, it looks for it outside of South Africa, because admittedly a lot of the technical expertise left the country when nuclear programs were closed down at some point. But they're saying that there is technical capabilities that are being that can be exploited within the country, where Cabinet's position is on where the technical expertise can be sourced on the map. The second question is regarding the G20, and I just need to get a general sense of, the United States President Donald Trump announced that he's not interested in sending any U.S. delegation to the Leaders Summit. And that might not be such a big problem, except for the fact that the U.S. inherits the presidency from South Africa. And I just wanted to find out if Cabinet has any misgivings about whether that will be a concern when it comes to advancing the program of South Africa within the G20 activities, given the fact that if Trump is telling the truth, there'll be no Trump, no Marco Rubio, no J.D. Vance. And then my third question, a bit of a cheeky one, if you can allow it, is in yesterday's meeting, would you say to what extent was there representation from Mr. George, from Mr. Okamp, in light of what we've been hearing, and were they present, and what are Cabinet's considerations about what has been said and how people have responded to the news of the changes in the Cabinet? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, William. Lindsay Benham, Eyewitness News. Seeing as you've indulged kindly with 3 questions. One follows on from him on the G20. My question is more a procedural one. Has Cabinet discussed, or the organisers discussed, from a procedural point of view, what is to happen if there is no US representation to physically receive a declaration or any outcome from South Africa? Does that essentially still put South Africa as the host until such time as you are able to physically hand over a declaration, or is it not necessary to hand over physically? What is the procedural implications of no US representation? And then, again, following on from Khulekani, the Cabinet statement notes that South Africa's representation at COP30 is now merely an observer status given.
No, I didn't read it.
You didn't read it?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry, it's in the statement that
It's
we.
not in the statement I have.
Oh, sorry.
The statement that has been shared is a draft. We checked against the delivery. Our apologies.
Sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to get clarification on that, and just to ask whether the timing of what Khulekani was saying, the Cabinet movements, is now.
It's not on the statement.
It's not there. So okay, just if you can just clarify then.
No, I can't clarify what's not there.
Okay. All right. COP30 is COP30. And then okay, if you can clarify for me on the state representation policy, from the paragraphs that I have in front of me, I'm not quite sure that I fully understand the implications.
My advice, stick to what I read, and that was a guide. So I'll ban them from releasing their draft before I sign off. I'm the one who attends Cabinet.
Okay, but you did address the state representation policy. So a question of clarity then from me. We have seen in commission, as you pointed out, commissions of inquiry, also seen in courts, TRC inquests, where police officers and the like are refused to appear because they say they cannot afford legal representation. So am I correct in understanding that this policy will alleviate policy apply? Does government now put those legal bills? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, maybe we can take these questions before we go for the ones online. Thank you.
I sent a message to a friend. There's one question that needs a response with a friend. Call a friend, ask a friend.
Use your lifeline.
Yeah. Thank you. I think let me start with the last question on representation. Initially, the policies provided that people who are called into commission of inquiries were not going to be represented by, will not have legal representation supported by government. And because the view was that commissions of inquiries were inquiries and will not lead to anything. But with progress of time, commissions of inquiries are also leading to judicial, they lead to prosecutions, and people feel the need to have representation. And if they cannot afford representation on the conducts of the acts they've done or decisions they made when they were in office, and on the virtue of them being officials of government, executive leaders of the executive or leaders of government, they felt that they would not then subject themselves to cooperate with the commissions of inquiries. And therefore, then the proposal was to amend the policy to provide for that. Then the follow-up question specifically said legal representation, and you use a specific case. When a person, if I'm represented by government and I'm found guilty at a personal level, then I become liable for the cost myself. So the case you are referring to does not apply on this manner. All employees will get representation into the commissions of inquiries, former employees included.
Commissions of inquiries, but court inquests or something different?
Legal representation into that, the whole process, that are inquiries. Where you are found guilty yourself of having acted beyond the bounds of the law, you then are liable to repay back to the state what you have, what has been used to cover your issues. Then the next issue, the easier one, is the technical capability, nuclear technical capability in the country. We've got nuclear technical capability in the country. You remember the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa. They continue to produce the nuclear products that are the nuclear products is called, there's a proper name, isotopes that are used for cancer treatment and so forth. Earlier in this year, the president with the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation visited one of those facilities, and I'm sure you are fully aware of our capabilities thereof. And that's why the pebble-backed reactor, a modular reactor, is moved. A part of the decision is that it's being moved from ESCOM to the NEXA, because NEXA sits with that capability. If NEXA needs to augment the capability from international skills, they will be free to do so. But we know that we've got the competence and the capabilities in our country, and we could also, they could also go on a drive of recruiting those South Africans with that capacity or with those skills who have left the country when the program was put under care to come back and deal with it. Then your question, even when you were trying to get to the COP issue, it was basically to know whether former Minister George attended the meeting. No. He's a former minister. The president communicated to that fact. Minister Ockham should be sworn in either today or tomorrow to take it. On Monday, he's being sworn in on Monday to take over the responsibility. So we don't have to go backwards and forwards. And the position in COP, I'm sure you saw that Minister George last week, if not earlier this week, articulated a position in the international platform which was contrary to South Africa's position on a number of matters. So we need to solidify our position on the COP matters, but that's not part of the cabinet statement. I just needed to set the record straight that what he articulated was not a cabinet and the government position. The government position had not changed at that point, and what is submitted to cabinet what will be submitted and considered by cabinet will be the cabinet position at that point, and Mr. Ocampo will communicate that, or we will communicate that position. And then U.S. delegation, absence, no absence. Don't know why we want to worry about absence, no absence. Actually, the absence gets us to get a declaration consensus. Remember, G20 was made on consensus. They are the ones who hold different views with the world, but it doesn't change that they take over. They take over because of the rotation, so it doesn't change anything. It doesn't diminish our work. We remember, South Africa will remain part of the troika of the outgoing chair, the chair, and the incoming chair. Will work with the United Kingdom to make sure that the programs that South Africa and the legacy of the South African projects continues when the UK takes over from there, if the US does not take over of those. In any case, the US has already communicated what they will do. They only have two focus areas, if I recall, and it diminishes everybody's focus areas. But the United Kingdom holds a view that our focus areas, they will proceed with them. They're actively participating also, and next year they also form part of the troika. So it's neither here nor there for us. The leaders of the world are coming. And remember, the US did not go to the G7. They went to take a photo and left, or did they even take a photo in Canada? See. It's for us. It's not unique. Their absence is not unique to South Africa, and they can say all sorts of things. But we are hosting the G20. A number of leaders and countries are participating fully, and they will be. We are confident that we should achieve what you call a declaration from the summit in that space. I think I've taken care of those parts of your questions, and then we'll take the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the responses that you have given. I will then invite Leighton to take us through the submitted online questions. Leighton?
Good morning, Minister. Good morning, Chair. We have 4 online questions. The first question is from Amanda Corsa from News 24. What did Cabinet make of the United States decision to boycott the meeting and question South Africa's inclusion in the G20, along with the subsequent withdrawals of Argentina and Mexico? What implications, if any, does this have on the broader discussions or outcomes? With South Africa preparing to hand over the G20 presidency to the United States, have there been discussions between Pretoria and Washington regarding who will officially receive the presidency on behalf of the U.S.? If so, could you please provide some context on these engagements? Question number 2 from Simon Ney from Inside Politics. The President last week told the National Assembly that the delegation will be jetting off to the 3% tariff. What are the developments that affected this boycott? Question 3 from Vui. And how many of them will be led by the respective heads of state? Question 4, Minister, is from Ilyas Basidi from Heart FM News. Can it please be elaborated which position of the government and former Minister George differed from at the COP30, and which different position did he present? Thank you very much, Chair and Minister.
Thank you very much, Leighton. Minister, those are the last set of questions that we have online. I would also request that maybe, Minister, at the end of the responses, we can give a sign-off as we go into the G20 activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have dealt with the U.S. absence, so I'm not going to go back there. And the delegation to the U.S. Remember, this is not the first delegation. We've been going back and forth. We have updated on that. After in April, we gave them our proposal for the trade deal between South Africa and the US. They responded somewhere in June with a counter proposal, and we had a team that went to negotiate, and they did negotiations on to say there were much improvements after the 2 rounds of discussion in terms of getting the parties close deal. So the team that is gone there is to finalize those aspects. And the US-South Africa relations have nothing to do with the G20. The G20 is a multilateral platform with countries, the top 20 countries in the world being part of that formation. So South Africa has its own bilateral relationship with the US, and we have indicated that we deem that relationship as strategic and as important to us. They are one amongst our leading trading partners, so that's why we want to cement those and to demonstrate the commitment of both sides to the relationship. That's why the negotiations are continuing. There are other countries that have not been given any room to engage with the USA. We have been given room to engage, and there have been improvements. And you'll recall we explained that even the negotiations on AGOA, they progressed. For us, the numbers are quite insignificant, but it's important for the other countries in the African continent, and our participation in those negotiations are important, and we have advanced those things. So our relationship with the US is solid. Like any partners, there will be differences here and there, but those differences do not make the sun rising from the west and setting in the east. And then countries, as we have indicated on Sunday the 16th, there will be a detailed briefing. It will give you the number of countries that are coming, at what level as heads of state they are, what are the special guests of the country. You remember the president indicated that he's going to invite special guests of the country into the G20, and also the African delegation beyond the AU, but also the delegations from the other important countries within the African continent. So a detailed briefing on Sunday will give you those positions. We can't make former Minister George newsworthy, colleagues. Let's leave former Minister George to be former minister. South Africa will articulate its positions on COP when Cabinet has considered the submission, and will articulate those positions. And as we prepare to go for the walkabout tomorrow with the President at Nasrec, we want to assure the country that it's all systems go. See, we are ready. But also I serve in the security cluster. The security cluster is also ready. We have had the G20 as indicated. We've had more than 130 events. They have been incident-free, and South Africa has successfully hosted previous events, and we are confident we'll deliver on this event as well. And in terms of the noises in South Africa, we're a noisy country. It's nothing new. And we like attention, so it's nothing new. So we continue to deal with our noise the best way that we know how to deal with the noise of South Africans. We continue to engage. We appreciate, for example, the People Movement call and concerns around the continuation of GBVF, and as government, we partner with everybody and want to partner with them and call them to join this movement to fight GBVF in line with the National Strategic Plan that was agreed in 2018 and in line with the declaration by the President of GBVF as a pandemic in the country. And it's an important drive that we get civil society aware, but also get communities aware. But it's important that we also shift the gear to get the families involved in preventing GBVF. As a people, we are resilient as South Africans, and the women of South Africa have demonstrated their resilience. The gains the women of South Africa have achieved, they did not come easy. They were not handed over in a silver platter. And we know and we are confident that in our fight for the rights of women, we'll also fight for the protection of women and children. Thank you very much. Lovely. We can see you at the walkabout, those of you who are in Johannesburg. We also have another walkabout, but it's not with the president, at Beirut for the G20 social. And we are ready to rock and roll. Let's show them who we are made for. No RSA, no DNA, just RSA.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Leandra. Thank you, colleagues, for coming. The world depends on you in terms of information dissemination. And I say the world deliberately, Minister, because there are journalists that have already arrived in South Africa to cover all the events that are there. So we take it that the center of all the news in South Africa also starts with our own local news outlets. On that note, thank you very much, and the presser has come to an end. Thank you very much.